Hi, everybody. I see you there. Hold on. We got a whole bunch of stuff breaking right now. All right. Hold on.
At the top of the hour, let's bring you up to speed on what's happening right now. We've got breaking news in Newport News, a shooting at Heritage High School.
All right, it is high noon here with me, Pugs Moran. We do this each and every day, Monday through Friday. Oh, hold on. Now I got my phone ringing. Ugh. Yeah, what's happening?
I need the link.
Oh, I didn't send you a link. Oh, I'm sorry. It's because we got huge breaking news. All right, hold on. I'll send you the link. Sorry, that's he. Unless you want to hang out while I send you the link. That's too loud. I'll send you the link right now. All right, folks. High noon. Hi, I'm Pugs Moran. This is Pugs and Company. We do this twice a day at noon. We call it high noon, and then we come back at 10 o'clock tonight, and we call that Pillow Talk. Pillow Talk is a little bit lighter, certainly compared to what we're doing here right now. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're just a little behind. We got here. Let me get E involved in the show. I didn't think he was back. All right. We have a school shooting. That's basically what's happening right now. Within the last half hour, it started popping off. It is at, oh God, was that a terrible use of word? I didn't mean that. The school shooting started happening about 20 minutes ago. And it's in Newport News, Virginia. It is Heritage High School. And police are describing this as a major incident. Reports are that multiple ambulances are at the school. Students have all been removed from the school and are now gathering at what appears to be the tennis courts. So forgive me, just a little bit. I'll make sure I did that right. Yeah, just listen in as it's breaking.
So as you heard her mention, she's here to offer mental health support to students who may have seen something extremely traumatic today. Are you a parent, ma'am?
Okay.
How are you feeling right now? Is your student okay?
Yeah, he's okay.
Talk to me about what you've been through, in the past 30 minutes.
Nerve-wracking.
That's what we do here on the noon show. We cover everything that is trending, and although this isn't trending, it is breaking. Let's get Emil in here.
He said he'd never been so scared.
When you talk to me about the alert you got from school.
E, what's happening? Welcome to the show.
All right, thanks.
Hold on, I'm just bringing everybody up to speed. Once again, police describing it as a major incident at Heritage High School in Newport News, Virginia. Reports that I have seen is that multiple students have been removed from the school and put into ambulance, one being reported shot in the head. There are no more details. The entire school has been evacuated. It is now an active crime scene. There are, I'm looking at the pictures here, hundreds of police cars. All the students are now being sort of gathered together in the tennis courts, which is out there on the school property. So I'm listening to live interviews right now, raw live interviews coming from the local Newport News. What is this? This is Wavy, W-A-V-Y. Wavy on your side. News 10, Newport News.
For those who are just joining us, we're on the scene of the shooting at Heritage High School, and the latest we have from Newport News Police, 2 people were taken to a hospital with gunshot wounds that are not believed to be life-threatening. That is encouraging news to hear. We have more on that.
Right, and we have also been told, police wanted us to let you know that there have been reports. So there have been rumors of active shooters at other schools in the city. That information is not correct.
Of course.
If you are hearing rumors that there are active shooters at other schools in the city, police want you to know that is not true. So the focus is solely on Heritage High School right now, where there is a confirmed shooting. Again, 2 people were taken to the hospital with gunshot wounds that are not believed to be life-threatening. So again,
okay. So as I said, this just started coming across and breaking within the last 20 minutes. I've been monitoring the. Here, I'm going to turn this off here. Get settled. This is very. Very distracting when these things happen minutes before we sign on here. So here's my lay of the land. And for the last 20 minutes, I've been, and we'll probably hear it in the background. For the past 20 minutes or so, I've been listening to the police scanner radio out of Newport News in Virginia. The police are going classroom. There you go. Yeah. Police are going classroom to classroom. One student was found in the hallway. They believe to have been a part of this shooting incident. But it turns out they believe she was just having a seizure from all of the stress. So, I mean, when these awful things happen, there are other things that could just sort of start domino affecting. All right. So we're going to monitor this. We're going to see what's happening as this develops. But the police are now saying that 2 people have been taken to the hospital. Earlier reports was that one was a gunshot wound to the head, which sounds serious. However, the latest news is that they're saying neither of the injuries or victims have life-threatening injuries. This is, again, a shooting happening right now. There we go. Let's hear what the cops are saying. Or not. That's what I hate about these police scanners.
You just come in and post. You're available.
All right. Honestly, the best information comes from the police scanners. They really do, because it's... All right. All right. Well, here, how do I put this? So when you hear about a school shooting, I mean, we've got kids that go to school every day. I know you can't live your life worrying about this. I mean, look, we have to do other things in life. But for me, it's always in the back of my head. It really scares the hell out of me to think that, and my kid is in middle school. So maybe this seems like more of a high school kind of thing. But then you got Sandy Hook, where people who don't even go to the school just kick in the elementary school door and slay down an entire room of kindergartners. When I think of school shootings, the first thing that I hear when one of these stories pops off is I think, okay, this is a crazy person off their meds at some suburban high school who got into his dad's gun closet and just decided that he was going to make the jocks pay. The old Columbine formula. That's typically what I drift into. However, there is a whole other thing. There are inner city high schools that have a different... All right, so now they're discussing evacuating the kids from the tennis courts.
Work on that. Go ahead over there. Probably go for the lockout. We're going to have the school officials help you guys.
All right. Apparently they're...
Are we safe to move once we get them all squared away and in line to get towards the buses?
Okay, so the students are now going to be moved from the tennis courts where they are onto buses and taken off the property. Okay.
Identified all the students that need to get on the buses. As soon as we get them together in a line, we'll begin moving them. Or do you want us to wait until you give us the word up front?
This is a big school. There's like thousands of kids all gathered together. Okay, and now they're reporting bomb threats. The dispatcher just said she got a call of bomb threats. But this always happens. All right, so back to my point. We think about the crazy kid off his meds who got into his dad's gun closet and is going to, make the jocks pay for being mean to him in the lunchroom or whatever it is. I call that the Columbine formula. But there's also another thing here. High schools also have gangs, especially inner city high schools. They have all kinds of disputes, and there have been shootings at schools, high schools, certainly in the inner city. I'm from the south side of Chicago. I can remember numerous times when I was growing up where somebody got shot at a high school, but it didn't cause, nationwide news coverage. It didn't cause Because I think, I don't know if this is wrong. I'm trying to work this out in my head right now, because we think, oh, that's just gun violence. And we compartmentalize that to, oh, that's just gang violence. Oh, that's just something happening in a bad neighborhood, right? I mean, do you make any kind of distinction when you hear these stories, or do you just automatically always jump to the Columbine thing? Because this appears to be an inner city school. This does not appear to be a swanky suburban, Columbine type school. I'm looking at the faces of the students. It's a very black school. I don't see any. I'm looking at thousands of kids. I don't see any, suburban Chads or Brads. So does that change the way we're supposed to start to think about this?
It doesn't change it for me. I think all the school shootings, for me, being 58 years old and thinking back to when I was in high school, grade school, elementary school, just that didn't happen, and accessibility to guns, in the town where I grew up, I mean, I didn't really see a lot of pistols. I
Me
saw more
neither.
shotguns.
Me neither. I had
and-
two friends who had dads who were cops. They were the only parents I knew in the neighborhood that had guns.
And if I did see guns, there was like a gun rack on the back of the pickup truck. And that was generally in the
Hunting.
fall when they were going for hunting season.
Yeah, deer hunters, sure.
But that would be, the only time that I would see a gun. And then if I did see a gun on it would be on a police officer. But this concealed carry or open carry, or the amount of guns that we have in the U.S. today, just to me seems like it's just multiplied to a number where there's just too damn many of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
and then I know I'll get a lot of pushback,
Of course.
and the chat room's going
Here
to
we
light
go.
up, and well, if you don't have a gun, how are you going to defend yourself from somebody else that has a gun, and all that type of stuff. But I mean, how many guns do we need? You know what I mean? It just
Yeah,
seems like there's too many.
look,
of them.
I happen to, I'm a victim of gun violence. My life was changed forever, irrevocably, by the murder of my father by some legal gun owner who decided that it was time to rob a gas station. And so, I have a lot of friends who are on the other side of this, who don't seem to share my deep, soulful concern. Certainly, it's because of a personal effect it's had on me. I mean, so I'm a little bit more, but I've learned over the years to accept that people don't have the same life experiences, so they can't possibly understand the way it feels. And that's probably a good thing. That's probably a good thing that you, responsible gun owners out there, and there are plenty of them. I mean, we're in Texas. This is a very big gun owning state. It's a good thing that you don't have that. And I don't judge you, but I would hope that you wouldn't judge me for holding the beliefs that I hold because of a very traumatic real life situation that happened to my family, that happened to my mother. My mother's life was destroyed by this. And so was my life. I mean, it's not, I don't want to get preachy. So I'll just say like this, I grew up without a dad. I grew up the child of a single working mom who was an artist in school. She was going to get married and have kids and be an artist. And, my dad had a good job and all that stuff. So that was her life plan. And then at 23 years old, suddenly she's a widow with no income, with a baby. I have no brothers and sisters. I have, so this is what informs my personal feelings about this. And that's all I'm going to say. And we're going to move off that topic. But I don't judge you anymore. I used to be far more radical. But as you get older, you sort of understand that people are the way they are based on their life experiences. And there's nothing that you can do to convince them that your life experience is somehow more important, that somehow they need to change the way they view things because you've been affected. That's just not human nature. So I have a lot of incredibly wonderful friends who do not share this. We just don't talk about it. It's just not something that we need to discuss.
My opinion about it is somewhere the good old ass whipping or bar fight or playground fight,
Right. The movie depiction of gunplay.
somewhere. I mean, if you get angry at somebody and you want to go give somebody a smack in the mouth or you want to fight them, I can understand that emotion more than I can understand I'm so mad
I'm going to
that
end
I
someone's
want to
life and ruin mine.
take away somebody's life and ruin all the people that they're close to, and then also ruin my own life. That logic to me seems to just be too far away for me to grasp onto. Where, yeah, I've been mad. Yeah, I've wanted to punch a guy. Yes, I have gotten mad and I have punched people and have gotten in fights. And for that, at the high school level or the grade school level, for a kid to take in a gun and handle it that way, it just doesn't seem to me to be complete thinking. And it seems to me to be I'll say it, the pussy way out. You know,
It's certainly the thoughtless way out. You're not thinking this through, if that's how you believe. I mean, this isn't Deadwood in 1880.
I mean, if you're mad enough at that person not to be capable, and you don't think you're capable of physically getting in a fight with them, why you would resort to a gun seems to me to be kind of chicken shit. You know?
I would say this, do what I used to do back when I was a teenager and I had a problem with somebody. Just make sure that all of your friends are badasses and then go visit that guy. That's it. I mean, I wasn't a badass in school, but I hung around with the toughest kids in school. And, that's how things were settled. Nobody jacked with me because they knew Tim Trojanowski was my friend. That's,
Right, but even
we didn't
the
have
bully,
guns.
yeah, even the bully in school can have a bad day. I've been to, bars where the fight might last a minute and 30 seconds and the big bruiser guy gets his ass handed to him by the smaller guy just because the smaller guy got off for 30 seconds before the big bruiser guy got
Or
an
the smaller
opportunity.
guy actually learned how to fight, and the big bruiser guy always just relied on being the big bruiser guy. And he throws one punch and falls on his ass and then gets choked out.
Right. And so I don't know. It just saddens me every time I hear about a school shooting, and I think to myself, okay, has it really gotten to the point where this is what we do? We just take away somebody's life? I mean, I don't know, just
recapping now. I see new people jumping in. School shooting breaking now. Newport News, Virginia. Shooting at Heritage High School being described by police as a major incident. I'm looking at drone shots right now of the school. Local news is obviously covering it. National news probably won't. And that gets me back to where I was. We won't spend a whole lot on this because we got stuff to talk about. The show is about what's breaking now and what's trending now. But it brings me back to my two classifications. And the one classification that seems to always get covered wire to wire, and that's the suburban Columbine formula, where it's a bunch of white faces in a white suburban school where it's going to scare, suburban moms and all of that. And then there's these other ones that happen at schools that are not white schools. This is not a white school. This looks to be predominantly African American. So I think that in the editorial rooms or the conference rooms of all the major news networks, when they're sitting around discussing what they're going to put on the news or on their show, I think they go, this is just gang violence. You know how those people are. And that's institutional racism. You hear people talking about what is institutional racism. That's what it is. I'll give you an example. This was something that was pointed out to me recently. We were talking about Gabby, how she was missing. And I made the correlation between JonBenet Ramsey going missing on the exact same day a black girl from a project in Milwaukee was abducted on her way to school. Nobody ever talked about the black girl who was abducted in Milwaukee on her way to school because she lived in the projects and she was poor. The news jumped on the pretty white girl who lived in the nice mansion because those are the advertisers they're trying to reach. Those people have disposable incomes, and those are the people who they want to sit back and watch the newscast and go, oh, this could happen to me. And the example that was pointed, I used that example. That's a very old one. But the example that was just recently pointed out to me was in a town called Downers Grove a couple of years ago. Downers Grove is just outside Chicago. It's a very beautiful suburb. It's nice upper middle class, middle class and upper middle class. I'm going to get people from Downers Grove going, no, it's not. It's a nice suburb. Okay. There was a shooting in the parking lot of a Starbucks. One person was shot in the parking lot of a Starbucks in this nice lily white suburb at the exact same hour that 3 people were gunned down in front of a liquor store on the south side of Chicago. And guess what they covered? They covered the one person at the Starbucks. Why? Because the people who watch commercials during the 10 o'clock news, the people who are wanted by the advertisers during the 10 o'clock news, go to Starbucks in Downers Grove. They don't hang out in front of a south side liquor store. So that's why those editorial decisions are made. And that's institutional racism. That means we're not covering everything fairly. We're covering everything based on what we think is more important. And we have deemed that the white people at the Starbucks who got shot are more important than the black people in front of the liquor store who got shot. And I'm wondering with these school shootings, if that's what we're going to see here, because will this just be dished off as, oh, well, you know how those people are, gang violence and all, as opposed to this is another Columbine. This could happen to you.
Do you think it's that they look at them like they're more important, or they look at the area and go, it's more expected in a bad part of town? It's more likely to have happened. And because of the perceived good area or the part of town where it's not happening, it becomes more sensational because you're like, oh my God, I thought I was shielded from this, but I'm not because it's happening in this good part of town.
The buses, once they get here and the sheriff gives the order, they'll get on the bus.
I think it ultimately comes down to one question. What do our desired listener or viewers, listeners, whatever, what do they care about more? The Starbucks shooting or the liquor store shooting?
Well, I think as a human, you probably care about all of them, but
right. News people aren't humans. They're selling commercials.
In the back of your mind that in that part of town, that's more regular than in the good part of town. And so I don't know if the news just decides to cover the good part of town because of the rarity of it, whereas they'd be spending all day in South Dallas.
Yeah.
Talking about shootings or gang violence or drug deals gone bad.
But the argument to that is maybe if they did, there would be some residual effect where that could have a positive impact on people paying attention and getting involved in stopping that. Tom Frankowitz in the chat room, the original producer of the Pugs and Kelly show back in Chicago, he says a mugging in River North, this is Chicago, a mugging in River North gets 5 minutes and 2 segments on the news. Meanwhile, 10 shot on the South Side gets no coverage. And that is absolutely true. And that comes down to one, which will affect the white people we want buying the BMW in the commercial we're about to play. Which story will they be more interested in? And that's how news is disseminated. And it's how news has been disseminated since the late 70s. When they turned news into a profit center. News, people always say, we'll go back to the Cronkite days. Cronkite didn't need to sell commercials. News was not considered a profit center. It was a loss leader, and it was something that he did to serve the community, to inform the community. But then around 1978, 77, a guy by the name of Fred Silverman decided that ABC News could make money if they created the News Magazine. And 2020 was born. And stuff became salacious, and that's when the blurring began. Then cable news networks came in, and they started doing that 24/7. And now we have no institutional news sources that we can trust anymore.
All right. Well, bringing this back to our show and what we've been covering the last 4 or 5 days, are we not somewhat guilty of that? Because we've been talking about Gabby Petito, but there's 2 lesbian girls that were shot dead on the 13th of August, and doesn't seem like the media's all bent out of shape about that.
That's a good question. Are we culpable? And I would say no, because what this show does is we don't have reporters in the field. We don't do that stuff. What this show does is react to the coverage that's being offered us.
And
So
I'm saying the we as in the
royal we. Yeah,
royal we,
yeah.
you know, the people that are what's currently going on seems like 2 white lesbian girls and 1 girl in the same vicinity. And this 1 girl in the same vicinity is going to take up 20 minutes of an hour on Fox News right now because her boyfriend is off missing and she's, you know, found dead in Wyoming.
I don't know. Ed sent me something and I don't know what he's sending me. I don't know what it's a picture of. I'm sorry. We get a lot of stuff going on here. All right. So once again, the story that's breaking right now, school shooting, police responding to shooting at Heritage High School in Newport News, Virginia. There are reports right now, although I haven't had the sound up, so I don't know if it's changed. 2 students were taken to the hospital, 1 reportedly with a head wound. Their injuries are being described as not life-threatening. The students from the school, a big school, I would say at least 1,000 students, have been rushed out of the school, and they're all being gathered on the tennis courts, which are back on the athletic fields. Those students are now being moved to buses by police. No idea if this is an active shooter situation. We still don't know. This is just happening now. But yeah, that's all we have. Police are responding to a shooting at Heritage High School in Newport News, Virginia. And yeah, that's where we are. If anything else happens, then we'll let you know. But somebody in the chat room said, hey, America's getting back to normal. We're getting school shootings again. Oh, wait a second. The reporter's got some news to break here. Let's see what the latest is. Hold on. She seems to be screaming to get put on the air. There we go.
Latest on what's going on.
All right, latest.
So I definitely wanted to make sure we were ready as he steps up. He's got other school officials with him as well, city officials. So definitely going to stay here right now and get the very latest as he prepares to come up and give his remarks on kind of everything that's been going on here. Very chaotic scene. Parents, students still standing around waiting to know how those who were injured are doing. What's the deal with the shooter? Where is that person? We still have not gotten any more updates as far as that goes, but we should hear in just a moment. And we're going to go ahead and set up for this conference, guys.
All right, yeah, it looks like they're setting up for a press conference. When that starts, we'll...
You know, I'd like to do a show.
Yeah.
Where we set up for a press conference at the guy's house that just won the mega lottery.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be good breaking news? Like, it seems like every time you get breaking news, it's
hold on, I
breaking
need to
news.
interrupt you. I'm sorry. Hold on. Here's the police.
Because it matters, right? The most important asset we have is our young people and our youth of this city. You know, our number one goal is to make sure that they're safe. That's what they're doing right now as we speak. At 11:30, well, I guess I should start. I have Dr. Parker here with me, school superintendent. We've been in constant communications since the incident happened. Chief Johnson, I have Representative Brian Dugan from the FBI, and then we have a plethora of resources. The state police is here, numerous federal agencies are here. The most impressive thing is the communication working together. But I want to share with you a little bit about what we know. Bear with me, because there's some things that I can't go into. And there's some things that I don't, but I will try to clear up some of the things that the community and concerns that we have going on. Okay. 11:38 today, we responded to a call of a shooting inside here at Heritage High School. Officers responded. Inside, we had, as you imagine, a little bit of chaotic scene. It was to try to get things under control as quickly as we could, locate our shooter, and protect our students. The school has been completely evacuated. We did that with federal resources and primarily the Newport News Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, and firemen helping us along with paramedics. We transported 4, maybe 5 individuals to area hospitals. 2 are suffering from a gunshot wound. 1 has been struck in the side of the face area. 1 has been struck in the lower leg. Both of those shooting victims are 17. I have a male that has been shot in the side of the face and a female that's been shot in the lower leg. The reports I just got from the hospital is neither one are considered life-threatening. And I thank God for that. That is the most important thing of those two individuals, first off. The individual has also been transported that had a sprained or broken arm. I don't want to go too much into that because I'm not sure exactly, but Chief Johnson followed up with that for me. I believe that happened when individuals were running out of the school, may have fallen on his arm. But we'll find more about that. Another individual that had asthma was transported for breathing issues. All right. We're hearing that there may be another that went straight to another hospital, but we know that we only have at this point two shooting victims. Once the school was evacuated, Chief Creswell handled the scene outside, along with Chief Johnson, myself, and Chief Grinstead with the assets inside. Captain Hires, his precinct, facilitated getting the students out. I will tell you, the teachers did an amazing job. Students did an amazing job funneling through. We placed most of them, and Dr. Parker will probably be more elaborate than I am, but to outside the building towards the tennis courts, and he can talk to you a little bit about how we're getting students home. But at this point right now, the FBI and the police department are surgically going through and searching, along with state troopers, are searching every inch of the school. They've given us the master keys. We'll go through and check every room, every hallway, closet, gymnasium, library. I'm not rushing through that. I need to make sure that there's no one else inside that school. We don't believe there's anyone injured. It is very possible and probable we may find a student or a teacher, an employee that didn't answer right away, that might have been scared. It's in a closet or in a locked room. But that, we anticipate that. But that's what we're doing right now, is at least searching to make sure that everything's okay. I really I understand how chaotic it has been for parents to try to figure out what's happened and what's going on. I think the parents have done an amazing job. Family members that have come, I understand that just the uncertainty, is my child okay? So we're trying to get as much information out as we can. I will tell you that there's been some evidence recovered at the scene and in other parts of the school grounds. But I don't want to go into that because there's kind of three components we have working right now. We have our component at the hospital, making sure that our two victims are okay. I need to be constant updated on how they're doing. The second is the tactical exercise that's going on inside the building, making sure that everything is cleared and the buildings are safe and we don't have anyone else inside. The third component then is trying to find our suspect. There is some footage and some evidence there that we're looking at. We'll be working with the FBI and schools to give us some information.
All right, so they do not have a suspect in custody.
The why and all those things will follow later. We'll find that. But I need to make sure that people are okay. I cannot thank enough Dr. Parker and his staff. They just did a phenomenal job, sir. Chief Johnson and the fire department. I've been in contact with the city manager, Cindy Roth, immediately. So there's a lot of information going. Things are working the way we'd like them to see work. But I understand it is a little bit chaotic. And I understand that families not knowing what's going on with their loved ones. But I just appreciate so much the students and how the faculty and staff have responded, as well as the officers here. I'm going to step out of the way.
Chief, real quick. So the suspect is not in custody?
The suspect is not in custody at this time.
Is the suspect a student?
We're trying to put all that together.
Okay. Do you believe that the victims were known to the suspect?
Yes.
Could you elaborate on a fight?
Okay. All right, there you go.
No, I don't.
Okay, that's a very big piece of information. Well, they still got a note here on the screen. Cryochrome. 2 taken to hospital after shooting at Heritage High School, but the police chief just said no. 5 have been taken to hospitals. 2 with gunshot wounds. 2 with injuries suffered in the evacuation, a broken arm and something else. And then a 5th, he could not confirm, but a 5th student of unknown injury was taken to another hospital. And the most important thing that he just said there, the 2 victims were known to the shooter. Now, maybe I'm speculating, but that could be anything, right? You go to high school and you shoot a classmate, you know who that person is, right? I mean, you may not be friends with him, but I know that dude. That dude goes to my school. Or is it these were people who had a beef and that this is now turning into that non-Columbine category of school shooting, where this is just a bad kid with a gun who decided to, what we were talking about, settle an argument by shooting. He shot the male victim was shot in the face and the girl victim was shot in the leg. So that's all we know. Developing now.
If the 2 people were shot by somebody that they know, at this point, I would think you should be able to communicate, at least with the girl that's shot in the leg.
Right. what's going on. Well, yeah, but they're not
what's
going to
going
break that
on or
right away.
what
The cops
happened.
need to talk to her, and they need to figure, again, we are conditioned to want things instantly, but this is an ongoing investigation. It's
But
there will
forgetting
be
the
answers. We will have definitive answers because the
forgetting
victims
the
are alive.
investigation, the ongoing investigation part. If you don't have the suspect in custody, I'm more concerned. I guess my priority level is different than his. He said first priority were the people in the hospital. My thought process would be, okay, they're at the hospital, they're being taken care of. There's nothing that I can do as the police officer in that particular situation. My top priority, I think, would be, where's the guy that shot these two people? I mean, I think that would be higher on the list of priorities. Then I want to be informed about what's going on with people at the hospital. Let the hospital people take care of that. You need to take care of finding the suspect.
Yeah.
And I'm not judging. I'm just saying, to me, when he said that was priority number one, priority number two was this, and then priority number three was something else. And then finally the reporter had to go, well, do you have a suspect in custody? And he's like, no, we don't. I would have thought, damn, that would have been priority number one for me.
I am judging myself right now, because after that, hearing what the police officer said and putting together the facts as he laid them out, the facts that are, for public consumption at this point, laying those facts out, something inside of me went, oh, okay, this is just beef. This is just, thug life. This is just some kid, angry at some other kid. They said they knew each other, and now they're on there. Nobody else was shot. See, that category, and I'm judging myself. Based on what we said before, how we classify these instances as being more frightening or less frightening. This, to me, is starting to sound in these early stages less frightening than just some maniac walking into the lunchroom and spraying random people dead.
Aren't you a maniac, though, if you take a gun to school and you shoot two people over some beef? I mean,
of course. But he didn't just
the
shoot
lines of being
people.
a maniac seem like they're really blurred there. You're a maniac if you take a gun to school and you shoot somebody over a beef.
There's absolutely no way I can properly explain what my emotion was when I heard that. But I did go, okay, this is not Columbine. A bunch of random kids with no personal beef or connection to the killer do not seem to have been the targets. This is beginning to shape up now. And again, it's only been going on for an hour now. This is beginning to shape up like a targeted guy, bad kid, whatever, with a gun, who just did exactly what we were discussing about 10 minutes ago. He went, almost settle my beef by putting them down, whatever that is. That's less frightening to me than just thinking that my kid could be gunned down in a lunchroom while eating, a pizza boat.
Well, again,
it shouldn't be, and that's why I say I am judging myself.
It's all scary. The fact that you're just there in the school with a gun, shooting some guy in the face and some girl in the leg. I mean, stray bullets happen. People get hurt. Just, I don't know.
All right. Anyway, so once again, the story breaking right now, and we're going to move off it until something more comes in. Newport News, Virginia, Heritage High School. There's been a school shooting. Police are describing it as a major incident. There are 5 people, 4 confirmed, possibly 5 people taken to hospital, 2 with gunshot wounds. The 2 that are described with gunshot wounds do not have life-threatening injuries. The other 2 was a broken arm and what they described as someone having an asthma attack. That may have been, I heard on the police scanner earlier, there was someone in the hallway who was having what was described by the police officer as an epileptic fit. That may have been the asthma attack. And the 5th, we have no information on. The 5th has not even been confirmed. The chief of police just learned that a 5th had been taken. All right, so there we go. That's that. That was happening just as we were signing on here. So forgive us for trying to get caught up here. And now we're moving off it. I mean, if it was a suburban high school, where is it because we need a bigger body count? God forbid. I mean, I try to be better. But I feel that we have all, after 40 years of just bullshit news coverage, I feel we've all been conditioned in a rotten direction where, and I shouldn't speak for we all. I shouldn't. I'm only talking about the way I felt the minute I got that information from the chief. I went, oh, okay, this is just gang violence, and we dispose of gang violence isn't as important as, white suburban violence, and that is I believe entirely due to the way I've been conditioned, in the way news of these things have been. We got to try to be better. I got to try to be better. You know what? Forget about you. You people just do whatever you want. You look at yourself in the mirror every day. I got to try and consider all lives equal. And I do, but this, I don't know. We get into trouble here when I'm just trying to explain these conflicted feelings that I have inside of me. It's another school shooting. Just doesn't seem to be of the Columbine category, which is good. I I don't know. There's that nervous laughter laugh. Okay. Let me X out of this because we do have things we need to talk about. You called me. We've got breaking news, or not breaking, but certainly a couple hours ago it was happening in the Gabby Petito case, don't we? Well, what did you see this morning? What did you awake to? Now, last night on the Pillow Talk, I said that we're going to wake up and we are going, holy crap, the Dow Jones is tanking, down 749 and rising. Okay, that's another story. I predicted last night that we were going to wake up today and there was going to be a warrant issued for the arrest of Brian Laundrie, which would change the parameters of what the search was. It had been a missing person search, and that allows for a certain degree of public funding. But once you're considered a criminal on the loose from justice, then they can tap into a whole other sort of budget for searching and finding. So I predicted that he would be basically what would that be? Charged, maybe not charged, or named as a fugitive by both the FBI and by the local police there. That didn't necessarily happen, but something else happened this morning. What happened this morning?
Well, this morning the FBI showed up in about 4 or 5 different vehicles with about 9-10 agents.
Where did they show up?
At Brian Laundrie's parents' home.
The parents' house, yeah.
And they knocked on the door, evidently executed a search warrant. And you saw Brian Laundrie's mom and dad get taken outside and put in an FBI van. Driver of the van, FBI driver, got back in the van, and they sat them in there while the FBI had run of the house.
Yeah, they had multiple warrants to search the house and the property and the vehicles in the driveway, because apparently those are different warrants. If there's a car in the driveway, that doesn't just go with the house. Now, they did say earlier, if the car was in the garage, that would be covered under the house. But they served multiple warrants, so they got a judge to... Remember, the first time the police arrived there on Friday, which was the big breaking news that started to happen around 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, police didn't have a warrant. Police were invited to the home by the Laundrie parents to inform the police that they didn't know where Brian Laundrie was, that they had not seen him since Tuesday. So today is sort of a ratcheting up of the police involvement here. They have warrants. They tossed the house. They made the parents sit in the van while the house was being tossed. The house is still being tossed. I'm looking at it in a little square here on my screen.
It looked like they were setting up a control center. They brought in a folding table.
Yeah.
And a bunch of boxes and some look like equipment. Some people were speculating that they were setting up a remote, crime scene lab.
They're case building. They are now going to go through everything. Every electronic device. They're trying to find anything that could bring them to the point where they're going to charge him with a crime, because as I'm sure everybody knows now, Gabby Petito's body was found thanks to some YouTubers.
Yeah. And again, the FBI hasn't confirmed 100% it's her, but
yeah,
everybody in America is thinking it's her. So
they say the coroner report, I assume the coroner had the body all night and was working on it and could have his decisions and conclusions made by this morning. They're now saying tomorrow.
Tomorrow's the day that the coroner's report is due. So the autopsy is not going to be, I guess, available until tomorrow.
So in that, we don't know cause of death. We don't know if there was a skull with a bullet in it. We don't know if
or she was strangled to death, or she was hit with a rock in the head, or
Right.
clubbed,
Or if the damage to the body is consistent with her falling, which is something that we suggested, that because they were rock climbers and they were doing a lot of real extreme rock climbing and they were very proud of their extreme rock climbing. We theorized that, well, maybe this was an accident. They were arguing. They seemed to argue a lot, Brian and Gabby. Maybe she fell and maybe he panicked. We don't know.
I got off that train, though, when I saw where the van was parked and where the body was found. For her not to be anywhere near any mountains that looked like that she could have fallen off of, I'm not subscribing to it was an accident. I mean, it may have been an accident from something else, but I don't think it was a climbing or physical accident. Physical activity.
I still don't know. I left it last night saying, I don't know. I mean, my mind races and I have a lot of thoughts that, are like, oh, maybe this and maybe that. But man, I don't know. I honestly don't. This is so... Okay, so here's
one thing I do know. If I'm Gabby Petito's parents, when I go back in that house, I've got to assume that house is bugged.
You would think, right? I mean, along with the Warrens came hey, Judge, we want to wire up this house because these people are now under investigation. These people are part of a major crime.
Yeah, I mean, they set you out in the front yard of your house in one of their cars. Well, they have free reign of your house. I'm assuming they're putting some types of cameras, some types of recording devices. They're going through everything and anything in the house to give them any possible clue. And I would think that the parents at this point are probably going to get arrested for helping this guy get away or not giving information.
How can they be arrested before he's even charged with a crime? They're not an accomplice to a crime. And I think he's got to be charged first. And that was what I think they're doing. I think they're case building. I think they're looking for stuff to be able to come back maybe today at 4:00 in the afternoon and have a press conference where they say that Brian Laundrie is now charged with the murder. And at that point, maybe then they can take what they found and go and arrest the parents. Because if the parents certainly do seem complicit.
I think the autopsy is going to lead to the charges. And then those charges are going to lead to the parents getting arrested. I mean, if again, what we told is true, his silver Mustang is at the park where he takes off on Tuesday.
Yeah, the Carlton Nature Preserve, which is
they go there on Wednesday, leave the car there. Evidently, there's 2 notes that are found.
Hold on. I'm going to let you walk me through this, okay? Now, last week we showed a video on the show, and this was on Wednesday. We showed this video, and I said, look at this. This is Brian Laundrie's house. He's in that house. I was wrong, knowing what we know now. He's in that house. There are no people on the yard. There are no press on the yard. And I said, oh, by next week, that's going to be filled with people. In that video, which was recorded on Tuesday, and we showed it on the show on Wednesday. In that video, Brian's silver Mustang was not in the driveway. It wasn't. As of Wednesday, that silver Mustang was back in the driveway where it remains to this very day. So go ahead. What were you saying?
So according to reports, his silver Mustang on Tuesday was at the National Wildlife Preserve.
Carlton
Preserve,
yeah.
Preserve. It was there on Tuesday. His parents left the house, went to the preserve, on Wednesday, saw the car, left it there, and evidently there was a note on the car from the police department, is what Fox News reported, saying that, hey, you can't park the car here. And there was another note that he had left in the car. They went back home for another day, and then on Thursday, there's some conflict here. One of the news stations is saying it was on Thursday, and I think Brian's attorney is saying it was on Thursday. The parents picked up the car, and other people are saying that they picked up the car on Wednesday. But either way, the parents are the ones that did bring the car back to the house without him in it.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why the parents found Brian's car and brought it back, because we were discussing that last night. So
Would you do that if your kid was
Yeah.
camping?
Yeah. No. Well, we don't know what was in the note, if he left a note, and the police, it's parked in a place where it can't be parked. You know, if I'm a dad and my kid is, look, the parents had a good idea. The kid was on the run, right? So they don't want the car towed. So they're just going to go and bring the car back home because they know he ain't coming back to the car. It's not like he's out
and
for a
that's the
jog.
point. I think if you know in your mind that he's not coming back to where the car is parked,
If they knew
you're then
Wednesday,
going to
why did
pick
they
it
wait
up
till
and bring
Thursday
it
or
back.
Friday? Why did they wait till Friday to let the police know that they didn't know where Brian was? Because the police had been holding regular press conferences saying, we know where Brian was all the way up. They did one on Friday morning. And then on Friday afternoon, they're like, we don't know where Brian is. So the police were incompetent in their duties.
Were they incompetent, or were they led to believe by Brian's attorney that he knew where Brian was?
Well, I would say that a police officer in the middle of an investigation who is led to believe something by the defendant's attorney is incompetent. Yeah, I would say you can't. I mean, he's defendant's attorney. You can't take his word as gospel. You know,
I don't know how. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know how he gets away, or how they hadn't been tailing him from day one when they reported that she was missing. But in any event,
so we're believing that the
gone.
parents. The reason we say the parents, I believe the parents are complicit, is because are we in agreement that the parents knew that he was out running for a couple of days before alerting the police that he was missing, in the hopes of giving him a head start? Is that what we're thinking? That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, I definitely think they helped him get a head start.
That's aiding and abetting. That's they are complicit in this. So as soon as we hear charges against Brian, then I expect to see the parents in handcuffs.
Well, remember the kid here that got drunk and he killed a couple people, and then his mom helped him get to Mexico
out in Fort Worth.
The kid in Fort Worth killed like a whole bunch of his... or drunk by rich or something. I don't know. But
he said that he was his defense was he was spoiled to be bad or something, or too wealthy,
something along those lines. I mean, she went to prison for helping him get to Mexico. In this case here, I would think both of these parents are going to get charged.
You would think, and it's being reported now, and I've seen it. One blue check news organization reported this, but then it's a whole bunch of other people, and I like to see at least 2 or 3 blue check news organizations confirming something. But it's being reported that Mary Laundrie, the mother of Brian Laundrie, was a district attorney until recently. So
wow.
So that would give her some, if that's true. And again, it's only been one. And it wasn't even a local. Okay, it was Daily Mail. It was Daily Mail.
Well, she was a district attorney. That then makes sense why they lawyered up.
I've Googled it and found nothing on that, though.
Immediately when he got home.
Affluenza. Jeff, remember, affluenza was what the new term that was applied to the kid in Fort Worth who got drunk and killed a bunch of his classmates. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
But I'm saying if she had anything to do with the legal system, that would make sense why immediately he got home, lawyered up. And
I got to get to mom. We assumed
mom and dad and him had nothing to say.
Yeah. All right, so that's where we are. And boy, the police weren't subtle about it. The FBI, they pulled right up on the lawn. They swarmed, and there's video out there. You can see it of the police actually swarming the house this morning. I believe it was around 6 o'clock in the morning, their time, 6:30 a.m. their time. And they just pulled those vans right up onto the lawn. They blocked off the driveway.
As I'm watching the news right now,
it's
saying that the 9/11 call has been released on the Petito laundry altercation. So that must have been from the Moonflower Cafe in Utah.
Oh, really? Okay, because there's another Petito laundry altercation, and that was between Joe Petito, Gabby's father, who went over to the house, the laundry house, on Wednesday.
That could be also what happened.
Hold on, let's see here. What did we say? 911 call?
9/11 call released on Petito laundry altercation. Fox News is reporting right now. I could turn up my volume.
All right, folks, this is all happening right now. Let's see what comes up here. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is the call on reporting on the van.
Are they playing it?
Yep.
Okay, let's see here.
They headed south on Main Street from Moonflower Market. Correct. They made the right turn. Also, they went north. North. Yeah, sorry, I'm not from around here. Okay, you're right there by the post office?
Can you hear it?
Yeah. Yeah, you got it.
Right across the street. Yep. Okay, and when they turned onto Main Street, they went right or left? Right. Right, so they went north. North on Main. All right, I will let somebody know. Thank you. Yeah, no worries. Bye.
So as a result of that, there was a traffic stop, and then the body cam video that we saw that went out.
All right. Well, there you go. Yeah. Well.
So that was definitely a male.
Yeah.
And that was reported as Chris.
Yeah.
And so all that
not
speculation.
to be confused with Crystal, who was one of the dead lesbians who was working at the shop.
At the shop at that time. Yeah. Boy, that doesn't that sound like a small town police?
Yeah.
So when he was going, did he make a left at the light or the right? And the guy's like, I don't know. I'm not from here. I mean,
he went left where the old red barn used to be. Oh, yeah, I know where that is. Used to be.
Okay, we'll get right on it. You know.
Yeah. All right. So North Point police now say that they've ended their search at the Carlton Reserve, which is where they believe Brian had been camping or running or whatever. And I think that speaks to what happened this morning when they raided the house. I think that the police at some point realized, hey, wait a second. These parents gave him a long head start. If this is where his car was found, he's not there anymore. He's gone. He's had 3 days to just, move. I don't know how much ground he can cover in his bare feet. Remember, Brian prefers to go out barefooted.
This changes my mind on him offing himself, though. Like,
So you think he's running?
I think he's. Yeah, I definitely now think he's on the run. I don't think he's killed himself or was going. I mean, he still ultimately might if he gets close to getting caught. But this changes my whole theory on the fact that I thought we might find him dead in the Carlton Preserve or never find him because of the amount of wildlife and crocodiles and things that are there. They said that right now the water in that preserve is at a very, very high level due to the amount of recent rain that they've had. So it's more swampy than usual.
I think one of the things that the FBI would be looking at is the parents' banking records. Did they, in the last couple of days, take out $50,000 from savings? You know what I mean? I mean, wouldn't that be a red flag? Like, oh, your kid.
Well, I think anything at this point is under review. I mean, their checking account, their cell phones, his cell phone. Any known friends of friends. I would think anybody that's on his any phone number that is on his cell phone, his parents' cell phone, that phone number, if you're included, you're probably going to hear from the FBI.
Don't you think it's odd that we haven't heard from any of Brian's friends? I don't know how quick I would be to jump forward, but kids at that age love being on TV. They love getting the clicks on their accounts. Why haven't we heard from any of Brian's friends? Did he not have friends? I mean, was he that weird? Or was he just one of these guys who lost all of his friends when he started dating Gabby? Because, there are those guys out there, and he did seem a bit controlling, described as being controlling and abusive, both mentally and physically, by one of Gabby's friends. So, yeah, I mean, we do not know. We're all speculating on what kind of dude Brian was.
Well, and he was, again, in the body cam footage, he said he did not have a cell phone. They have since said he does have a cell phone, but maybe he didn't have a cell phone turned on, or maybe he hadn't paid the bill, or maybe his cell phone was back at home, or maybe he got a cell phone when he came back after on the 17th. Because remember that body cam footage was on the 13th. He went home on the 17th. maybe he comes back with the cell phone on, you know, on the 25th or whenever he got back. And
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. As somebody who has had experience with these types of investigations, I can tell you that
You've been involved in a missing girl case?
no, I was
Boy,
involved.
I don't know that story.
I was involved, unfortunately, in somebody who was the victim of a car bombing.
Oh, that's right. I know that story. Yeah.
And, you know, that particular person,
that's why you're the most interesting man in the world. You have all of these experiences.
His cell phone records were then immediately made available because he was the victim, and they went through every number that he had called. My number was on that list, and I can tell you within less than 24 hours, I heard from somebody from the ATF. So I'd be shocked if every number that was on the parents, hers, you know, just they're going to reach out, and that's going to be first point of contact.
I just do not, after the events of last Friday afternoon, no longer do I have any sort of faith in the North Point, Florida Police Department. Let the FBI take it over now. We're talking about multiple states. We're talking about a guy who may have killed a girl and then drove across the country. This seems all FBI now. Let's stop with the local yokels, you know, screwing things up. You know, the cop who was supposed to be watching Brian was, over at his girlfriend's house. You know what I mean? The cop's girlfriend's. Whatever happened, he slipped through the net. He was a person of interest. You would think they were keeping an eye on him. The FBI seems to have taken charge this morning when they crashed the house and went in with all the warrants and all of that stuff. So, all right, that's all we have. They're still looking for Brian. Sean says, I said, why aren't his friends coming forward? Sean says, you're assuming he has friends. Yeah, you're right. I am. I'm assuming he does, but you could be right. He could just be as weird as all the speculation has painted him to be. We don't know. All right. So Gabby was found, we believe, right? That's what we're saying.
Yeah. They said human remains.
Remains matching the description. Right. Yeah. So that's where we are there. All right, let's see what else is trending today, because that's what we do on today's show. Everything that's trending, everything that people are talking about, other than the school shooting in Newport News, Virginia, and
they're crashing going in now with some kind of shield, like they have like a body shield on.
What are you watching?
Just Fox
News.
Mm-hmm.
Is it live? Does it say live or does it say?
It does say live. And this guy's now in front of the City of Northport Police Station.
Is he about to give
police are facing scrutiny over Gabby Petito case.
Yeah, they must have been listening. I was just throwing a little scrutiny at him for allowing Brian to slip through the net. Okay, so we'll have more on that if anything happens, but that's where we are now. We're still looking for Brian. They found the body of Gabby, and congratulations, man. Tens of thousands of people decided to turn this into a game of Clue, and they actually found the body probably weeks before, or if ever before they would have found the body. The body was found because some travel blogger went back editing tape on Saturday morning and, just stumbled across what they recognized as the white Ford van. And they sent that video of where the van was and the location, the coordinates, all that stuff. They sent it to the authorities, and the authorities found the body within 12 hours. The body was found within 300 yards of where that van was shown on the side of the road. That is citizen investigations, right? That is like a citizen Sherlock right there. And this is the first time that I can really remember a case like this being taken over by amateurs who actually solved it. I mean, isn't that kind of incredible? There were a lot of people moral grandstanding in the early point. You shouldn't be talking about this on the internet. You shouldn't be discussing this like it's some game. This is a girl's life. Well, guess what? If I were the parents of that girl, I'd be damn happy that tens of thousands of people were overturning every rock. We're looking at every clue and sending anything of relevance to the authorities who are conducting a search, because that's how she was found. She was found because of the Redditors, because of the YouTubers, because of the TikTokers, because of the Twitters and the Facebooks. That's how they found the body. That's how we're able to shut the door on I almost said hopefully. I don't know if hopefully, but that's how we're able to find this person's body. And even if it isn't Gabby, which I think we're all about 99% sure that it is, we just haven't had official confirmation. The father, Joe Petito, he has certainly, he tweeted out a beautiful thing with his daughter. It says the world lost an angel. So the father is certainly accepting the fact that his daughter is gone and that those human remains found matching the description of Gabby were in fact Gabby. So that was all due to citizens getting involved in this thing. Long before the news media didn't even get involved in it until Friday. You know, the CNNs and the Fox Newses, they didn't get involved until the house was, until Brian went missing. That's when it became a story for them. But for the rest of us, for tens of thousands of us, we've been on this for a week before that.
Yeah. And, you know, the one what if, or the guy that could potentially be kicking himself in the ass is probably the guy that had that video. If you recall, we talked about it last night. They thought of stopping and saying hello because they were from Florida themselves. And on that video, we saw the door. We saw the door of the van open, and then quickly, as it was opening, close, because evidently they must have seen the car coming up from down the road. And was it at that point in time that she was possibly still alive? And if he does stop, is she not dead now? You know, I mean, that's kind of the, oh, wow, man, I just wish we would have stopped, but they didn't. And at least they did provide the footage. And then that footage led to what we, have now. But I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, man, I bet you that guy is kicking himself in the ass for not stopping. And his gut instinct at first told him, oh, well, yeah, let's stop and say hello because we're from Florida and they're from Florida. And then what made him change his mind? Was it the fact that the door opened and closed and the guy looked like he didn't want to be too friendly? And so you just assumed.
Those are two conflicting things that we jumped off on about that van. At first, everyone was saying it looks like there's somebody out in the field round about the area where the body was found. And we slowed that down and we looked there and we tried to see if we could make anything of it. I don't think anything conclusive was made, but it certainly did look like something was out there. But then there was a second video as these vloggers, these travel vloggers, approached the car with their dash cam. They had a little camera on their dash. So as their car passed the white van, there was indisputably a moment where it appeared the back of the van opened and then closed very quickly.
Yeah, the door opened and did close very quickly. And I wonder if
that's
that
more
was
conclusive than the person in the field. So I'm
for
thinking
sure.
he was in the car.
There's no doubt that the door opened and closed. And that's where I'm wondering, was it because that happened and they saw the person open the door and close the door real quickly, and then they got up to it and saw, oh, it's got Florida plates. Maybe we should stop and say hello. But because of the open and closing real quickly, was that maybe what spooked them to say, the guy didn't kind of look like he wanted to be bothered, so we're just going to continue to drive on.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on here. Let's, like I said, there's nothing more going on there. I'm sure we'll have more tonight at the 10 o'clock edition of Pillow Talk here on Pugs and Company.
They're actually interviewing this girl, Jen Bethune.
Was that the vlogger?
Did they get back to you, or were they simply able to work off of those images? And then, all right,
I'm trying to move on. We're just kind of.
All right, well, I'm going to mute my mic with you, and I'll let you move on.
Let me know if anything new comes in, but I'm going to talk about some local Dallas stuff. So if you want to chime in, chime in. Adam Raina just asked me, you talking about the Deep Ellum shooting? Yes, as a matter of fact, we are going to be getting into that. There's a couple of local Texas stories that I'm going to do. Let's see here, but let's run through some of these quickly. Let's see what is trending. Pfizer is trending. Pfizer, as was described last night on the Emmy Awards, the Neiman Marcus of the vaccines. Pfizer has approved, or a vax has been approved from Pfizer for children 5 to 11 years old, which is really good news. Although my son is outside of that bracket. I guess my son could have gotten the regular vax. But, that's the most heartbreaking thing about this latest wave of the never-ending pandemic is that now it's not just affecting our grandparents. It seems to be affecting children. Children are back in school. People are easing on, the precautions that they take because, my God, it's been 2 years. At some point, we're just going to fight facts and just try and go back and living a normal life. Health be damned. So kids are being affected now. Pfizer has a new vax that's been approved now for 5 to 11 years old. So that's good. Let's see. Also, taunting and the No Fun League. Those are both trending. We're not going to get into that just yet. Chris Rock is trending. Chris Rock has himself a case of the COVID. Speaking of that, Chris Rock is trending because he's sick. He says he has it. He says it's no fun. Well, you need Chris Rock to tell us that. Chris Rock is fully vaxxed, and he is not hospitalized, but he's got the bad flu, which is pretty much what happens to people who catch it who are vaccinated. People who do not have the vax and they catch it, they have a much larger likelihood of having the end of life version of coronavirus. But the people who are vaxxed are, for the most part, they're still getting sick. They're still feeling bad, and that's what Chris Rock has. So no worries about Chris Rock. He just says he feels like garbage. He's happy he got vaxxed. He couldn't imagine what it would be like if he hadn't been vaxxed. Everybody go out and get vaxxed. That's according to Chris Rock. There are 2 other local stories that are going on here. There was a terrible shooting. We talked about things that get coverage, and it's always in the white people shot in the parking lot of the Starbucks will always get more than the black people shot out in front of the liquor store in whatever neighborhood you try to avoid on your way downtown. But we had one such incident this weekend here in Deep Ellum, which is a place I used to live. Love Deep Ellum. Deep Ellum is the historic arts neighborhood of, and yeah, I say historic. You mean, no, it's not. It's just a bunch of stupid yuppies. No, it's whatever. No, or it's either a bunch of stupid yuppies or it's the ghetto, whatever. But we're talking going back to the early days of Dallas. This is where all the blues clubs were and where all the musicians played, and right up through the 90s. It's where a lot of the great bands of the 90s that came out of Dallas, the alt rock bands and stuff. And even in my early days, in the early 2000s, I would go out to Deep Ellum just about every Friday and Saturday night. That's where the clubs were. And then it got really scary for a couple of years. And then it got nice again. And, I'm not exactly sure what Deep Ellum is all about now. I haven't been there since I've been back. I'm hidden out here in the 1%er compound. I don't really get out much. This is pretty much the extent. But here's the story that occurred Sunday morning. Dallas DFW, we're not having it. That's the message from Dallas Police Chief Eddie Garcia after a deadly weekend shooting in Deep Ellum that also injured several people. Kenneth Walker, 18-year-old kid. Kenneth Walker was killed and 5 others wounded early Sunday morning outside a busy nightclub at the corner of Main Street and Malcolm X Boulevard. Another 18-year-old, Nathaniel Pearson, was arrested by police. Another 18-year-old, Nathaniel Pearson, was arrested, but police say they aren't sure if he is the one who fired the deadly shots. Now, this happened just before 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. Not exactly a time where you expect gunplay in front of a club. It was just before. No, I'm sorry. 1 a.m. Okay, I misread that. I thought that was weird because I'd heard that it was at the club and it was the night before. It was just before 1 a.m. on Sunday morning when officers in the vicinity saw Pearson pointing a gun and ordered him to drop the weapon. The teenager dropped the weapon but ran from officers. He was caught and taken into custody after a short foot chase. The issue investigators are now looking into is that at the same time Walker was shot, there were several other individuals firing weapons in the area. That's because everybody's got guns now. Everybody's got them. Pearson was arrested on aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and evading arrest charges. Walker died from his injuries after being taken to a local hospital. Another shooting victim, 19 years old, was taken to the hospital in critical condition. 4 other people, ages 30, 25, 21, and 15, kids, were hurt during the shooting, but officials say their injuries are not life-threatening. Dallas police released a statement saying that they have zero tolerance for this kind of violence. Zero tolerance, yet it happens all the time. We have zero tolerance. Really? Because you seem to be tolerating it. Because we, the citizens of this town, we seem to have to tolerate it. So what's going on with the police? You can't, what's going on with the police? Everybody has guns. And it's easy to just say the police. Everybody has guns. And now, I'm not sure what the new rules are, but now, can I just go to the 7-Eleven and get a handgun? Isn't that pretty much how it is now in Texas? I'm not sure. I have no idea. Adam Morena, who seems to be very interested in this story. We appreciate any details that you might want to share and any thoughts. Adam in the chat room says, happened at like 12:45 a.m. and I was out doing Uber just 2 neighborhoods over. God, man, Adam, yeah, I know. Adam's doing the Uber thing. That is not a job that I would want to have now. The Uber thing seemed like a nice side hustle where people could make a little extra money. But man, we had the girl, the Lyft driver, I believe in Garland. You remember that from a couple weeks ago? We didn't really get a chance to talk about it here. Lyft driver picks up somebody in Garland. The guy shoots the Lyft driver, murders her, and then drives to Plano, pulls in front of the Plano Police Department and starts shooting up the Plano Police Department. God, I mean, deliver food, man. I don't want no stranger getting into my car, Yeah, Adam, God bless you, man. I hope you're safe. You've got a beautiful family. But, man, that is a dangerous job. We're talking about the Deep Ellum thing. By the way, did anything else happen? You were watching the interview over there?
The lady that, was responsible for giving the video to the FBI has been in touch with Gabby's parents and talked to them. Pretty much her focus, and she said a lot of the bloggers that helped her with this, she gave credit to the whole community.
Good,
on
yeah.
helping solve the crime. Did
they mention us for being all over it for the past week? No,
they didn't. But they mentioned,
no credit wanted,
obviously. But they did mention that they're now focused on trying to find Brian and get answers to what happened, and thinking that he's out in some type of reserve. You've got to imagine he's on the lam somewhere. That she's hopeful that one of the people that are living this type of life is going to be able to lead to him maybe with another video.
So I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you heard what we were talking about. We were talking about the shooting that occurred on early Sunday morning, just after 1 a.m. out in front of a club there on Malcolm X in Deep Ellum, where 5 people were shot. 18-year-old Kenneth Walker was killed. And I was talking a little bit about Deep Ellum. Now you've been here far longer than I have, and you saw the heyday of Deep Ellum in the 90s. What is your personal experience with the ebb and flow of that neighborhood, the ups and the downs?
Well, originally, I actually owned a condo when Deep Ellum was on the rise, and they had started building.
And so, give me that year. What year would that have been?
God, it would have been in the late 90s.
Okay.
I owned a condo at 2220 Canton, and big parking lot all around. Now it's surrounded by apartments. But back then, the police presence in Deep Ellum was significant, and I believe that police presence is what made me feel safe to actually buy a condo there. And Deep Ellum rose out of the ashes to be a place where there was a significant amount of nightlife, and you weren't concerned about going there, although a lot of people thought I was crazy at the time for buying a condo down there. Then it seemed like the police presence diminished.
Yeah, let me stop you right there, because this coincides with about the time that I arrived here. I arrived in Dallas in very early, was very late, I guess. It was, I got here 2 weeks after, 2 weeks after September 11th. We were supposed to come before or closer, but all the air travel was, grounded, and we decided, okay, we had been doing the show to Dallas from Chicago for the previous year. So we had some knowledge, and we had come to town a couple of times. And the first time we came to town, we went to Deep Ellum, and I remember thinking, wow, this is a really cool neighborhood, because this is now going back to like maybe the spring of 2000, when Deep Ellum was just coming out of, Well, there was a bit of a renaissance around the time when you would have been purchasing your property there. There was a renaissance due to all of the white suburban people starting to come to the clubs because of the white alt rock bands that had sort of taken over the neighborhood. And it was cool and it was artsy and it was on the rebound, and you bought a condo there. And then you just described exactly what I witnessed over the next 5 or 6 years in Deep Ellum. A total decline. Went from being a place where when I first got here, I felt relatively safe. We'd go to the Curtain Club. We'd sit out in the beer garden there, right on the street. Cars would whiz by. It was hustling. It was bustling. Sure, there were some homeless types, and sure, there were some sketchy characters, but you get that in any major American city. But at that point, Deep Ellum to me, remember, I'd only been here. I hadn't lived here a long time. I didn't know what it was. But to me, it seemed like a tourist area. It seemed like an area where they were inviting tourists to come and take advantage of the arts and the music and all of that kind of stuff, which would be a completely credible reason for you to sink probably a significant chunk of money into a building there. Now, what happened in the 5 years after, say, 2001 in Deep Ellum that we get to the state that it's in now?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the dates. I remember I bought the condo. It was in the late 90s.
I mean, we're talking the Laura Miller reign seems to coincide. Laura Miller, mayor of Dallas, seems to coincide with the regression of Deep Ellum.
Exactly. And so I had the condo, the area was on the rise. Everybody was going to Deep Ellum, to, go to the clubs, go to the bars. And then I want to say somewhere around 2000. Well, I remember I got married in 2000. I then bought a house out in Plano. I moved to that house in
The
Plano.
house that collapsed, the house that was built on a.
Right. I bought that house out in Plano. And so then I chose not to sell the condo because the neighborhood was hot and I could lease it and basically make the payments with the lease. And I had a tenant for, I want to say, the good part of three to 4 years. And finally, it was like 2004 ish, the neighborhood had turned. I could tell, and he could tell, that the police presence was not what it used to be. And the neighborhood had kind of changed, and there was the different crowd that wouldn't necessarily go into the clubs, but they would hang on the street. And it was really kind of now it was crowded to drive down Elm or to drive down Main Street and
crazy
go across
crowded on a
on
Friday
Malcolm
or
X. It was
Saturday
just
night. Nowhere to park. People everywhere. It was
people
a
everywhere,
very vibrant part of the city.
And it was an element of the people that were there were not there to go inside and spend money. They were there to take advantage of the people that were in that neighborhood.
Gullible suburbanites coming to see the toadies on a Saturday night.
Spending money. And that's where I think a lot of the robberies started to occur, or, rapes and things, and people getting assaulted. And so it was really in that time period that people were like, okay, we're not going to Deep Ellum anymore. And property values started to take a dive, and ultimately ended up selling.
And so now, here's how, I mean, having lived through it, at least this particular stage of Deep Ellum, going from the place where it was really fun to go to on Friday and Saturday nights, where you could go and see all kinds of great bands, touring bands. I saw Thin Lizzy, man. I saw Thin Lizzy in a smoky bar. It was awesome. You could do all that. And then around 2004, maybe, is when it started to get a little bit sketchy, where you started to feel people started.
Not a little bit. It got sketchy.
It got real
quick.
sketchy. I'll give you an example. You said you owned a condo there. Our mutual friend, the late great Bruce X, who passed away recently. He had, for the first 3 years of me knowing Bruce and hanging out with him, he had a big, beautiful loft. It was like an old warehouse or something that had been converted into this really cool loft space. And he was saying I'm never moving. I'm never moving. I love it here. I love it here. I'm never moving. I'm never moving. I love it here. I love it here. And then somebody got shot and killed right in front of his doorstep. And he said, I'm moving. I'm out of here. I don't need this. And that was about 2004, 2005. We're talking about you, look, I don't mean to embarrass you or anything. We're talking about you, and we're talking about Bruce, and these are two people that I knew who were men of means. These were not people who were looking for the most available rent. These were people who would invest in real estate properties and then try and flip them in a couple of years when they could double their price. This was not a place for working class Joes. This was a place for movers and shakers. Those were the people who were buying the property. And right around 2004, 2005, that's when they all pulled out. They all said, I am getting the hell out of here. And all those properties, those beautiful condos, those loft apartments, they all pretty much just went vacant. And now we've got this. But correct me if I'm wrong. It seems to me that somewhere around 2009, so maybe there was a 5-year down period, and it seems to me around 2009, they started to try and make a comeback. There started to be new construction, new businesses started to move in. And then what? That only lasted 5 years, and now we got the shit that it is now?
Yeah,
I mean,
it did. Well, the way I explain it is, if you ever want to take a neighborhood that's on the down and flip it around, it seems like the first group that's invited to the down neighborhood are the artists, are the musicians, are the places that need more space for cheap in order to do their business.
You can't practice your death metal band, in a garage in Plano because the neighbors will complain. So
right.
You rent out
and our artists, can't paint their big canvases inside of their, 1,000 square foot apartment, 800 square foot apartment, can't slop paint, can't do a number of the things that you want to do, drill, saw, weld, sculptor, stuff like that. And so a lot of the vacancy that was created from it was a boom in 2000 to about 2005, the rent started to drop, the places got vacant. People then said, hey, there's these cool spaces that were finished out, some high-end finish out that people had spent money on, but then kind of had left and deserted them and said, this isn't for me, I'm out of here. And so artists came back in, and then in that flipping of, okay, we're now on the rise again, rent started to go up. A lot of those artists left from there and headed over to the design district. And so kind of where I'm at now. And so there was a period of time where the rents in Deep Ellum started to rise.
It shifted for safety purposes, right? I mean, the artists got tired of getting, beaten up on the corner at the 7-Eleven. So they moved from Deep Ellum over to another area that had been underdeveloped. And that's the absolutely beautiful design district now, which, a young artist can't afford to be there
anymore. But and so that's what happened.
3-4 years ago, they could.
It got unsafe over at Deep Ellum. You didn't want to have people come to your studio and being accosted on the street by the panhandlers, or possibly even worse than that, getting assaulted on the way to their car and stuff like that. And so artists were like, okay, even we're out of here again. And so then we headed over to the design district, and Deep Ellum really at that point went down the toilet. It was just nobody was going over there.
We had nothing but
waved the flag, the last artist out of here, bring it. And it left it to a whole other element. And then as we got over to the design district got hot. Virgin Hotel decided they were coming over there.
It's like Rodeo Drive now. It really is.
And and I guess the one thing that you don't have yet in the design district is you don't have the amount of apartments that you had over in Deep Ellum, which then allowed a whole group of people to
squat
and create some issues. So I don't really know, what the fix is, other than I think police presence. If I think back to when I first moved there, what made me feel safe was, going out of the house. I remember I'd walk the dog and I couldn't walk, a block without seeing a cop car going around.
Not only that, but I will tell you something. When we used to do our events very early, so we're going back again 2001, we used to have to drive down to places like Clearview or Curtain Club or wherever it was that we were
Lemon
doing
Bar, Blind
trees,
Lemon.
whatever it was that we were doing. down there. I mean, a lot of times it was for work, not just for, play, but a mix of both. But I remember very early on, I would have to park at a parking spot, a big parking lot. It was a field where everybody was allowed to park. And I think it was just south of Malcolm X Drive. And I remember thinking, parking in that lot, that I didn't have a care in the world, because there was literally Dallas police officers stationed in the lot. They would stand right there. And if, hi, officer, how are you? Hey, you kids have fun tonight, or whatever it was. That went away. And that's when people started getting raped in those parking lots, or cars started getting stolen. And I guess Ross Rubio, who is a local musician who I've known for a lot of years, he would definitely be an expert on the topic of the ebb and flow of Deep Ellum. He puts the blame squarely on Laura Miller. That when she came in, that's when it seems like the police presence was scaled back, and that's when the crime started to go. Also, for people in Chicago, friends of mine from there who have no idea what Deep Ellum is, I think that the Chicago correlation would be Bucktown, where all the alt bands are, and the art studios and galleries. The difference is that Bucktown was a really bad place until about 1990. And that's when, the Smashing Pumpkins moved in, and Urge Overkill and Liz Phair, and, all these other bands that went on to make a lot of money. When those bands moved in, they ended up staying after they became rock stars. And then people wanted to live near the rock stars, and then the condos went up in the loft. So Bucktown and Chicago didn't really have the ebb and flow the way that Deep Ellum did here. Bucktown is now... the Real World Chicago, decided that they were going to go there and film. So it is like that kind of an area. But imagine if Bucktown suddenly reverted back to being like Cabrini Green all of a sudden. And that is sort of what we're dealing with here with Deep Ellum in Dallas. April in the chat room, she says, pre-pandemic, I was in Deep Ellum all the time for rock concerts, comedy shows, and Serious Pizza from 2009 to 2019. Now, I would never go there on a Friday or a Saturday. I don't know. I would either. She said, I didn't feel unsafe until 2019, especially on weekends. Okay, so that brings it just a little bit more recently, the decline. Sean says, I had my car broken into outside Club 1 in Deep Ellum in the late 90s. Okay, it's still going to have spotty crime like that.
Breaking news here. Tow trucks arriving at the laundry house.
They're going to take the Mustang?
They're about to take the Mustang.
Yeah. Brian Laundrie's Stang, his sweet ride, is about to be gone over with a fine-tooth comb. And here's Sean.
He hasn't made the payments and they're repoing it.
Right. Wouldn't that be a crazy coincidence? And the cops that'd be the one time that, the repo guy shows up and the cops are like, no. You're not repoing it. We need this car. Right. Ross says, I definitely blame Laura Miller. It all started going to shit when they filled in the tunnel. Do you know what that means? I don't get the reference. I know the tunnel there, but what do you mean filled in the tunnel? The tunnel with all the graffiti and the cool art and all that stuff that takes you from.
Yeah, I don't think it's filled in.
April also says 6th Street in Austin has gone completely downhill. I'm too old for all that anyway, but can't enjoy weekends down there either. 6th Street in Austin is different because 6th Street in Austin is like a nationally famous tourist area. So I don't think it'll ever become what we're dealing with in Deep Ellum now. I mean, no matter what, the city of Austin has a big investment in making sure that people who travel to Austin can enjoy a night out on 6th Street. But yeah, there's crime everywhere. But I don't compare them.
I think the thing that allows 6th Street not to have as much of the ups and downs of Deep Ellum is the proximity to the UT campus. The same way that I would say in downtown where Baylor is, there's that little pocket.
There is a nook
of where the hospital is.
Right.
Where that
nice
neighborhood was pretty safe because the amount of police traffic that's going in and out of the hospital just by the fact that it's a hospital and people get transported there kind of keeps that little nucleus around it safe. It's when you get outside of that, a little further down Henderson, a little further down Ross Avenue, and you're not in that Baylor bubble, that then the neighborhoods quickly dive off. And I think the other the other thing that probably stole from Deep Ellum's police patrol was when Knox Henderson, kind of where Louis is at the bottom
Yeah.
of Henderson.
Yeah. That's
But
people with money.
from 75,
SMU.
essentially Knox, which dumps right here into the 1%er neighborhood.
Yeah.
Up, if you follow it over 75 and go there,
they probably had limited police resources, and they decided to dispatch the resources to where the money was, as opposed to where the artists and the rock clubs were.
And so I think Uptown, kind of the creation of Uptown in the Knox Henderson area also led to the draining of the police force that was in Deep Ellum. And they kind of said, okay, we're going to let that go. And we're going to, guard closer to the 1%er neighborhood.
Since we're talking about the many, and by the way, that's one of the things about the Dallas, the immediate city of Dallas, the many entertainment districts. There's not just one. I guess all big cities have many, but Dallas has a lot. Well, where does Lower Greenville fit into all of this? Because that sort of intersects with Knox Henderson and the Deep Ellum at some point. And I was recently on Lower Greenville, and I thought it looked sketchy as hell. And I remember that being just a bunch of frat bars. That's where, the frat guys would all go when I first got here.
Yeah, well, if you're asking me, Lower Greenville suffered during that time period as well because
of the move to Knox Henderson.
I think Knox Henderson had the higher end clubs, the higher end restaurants,
the higher end clientele,
higher end clientele that would dump out of the 1%er neighborhood or come out of the Uptown neighborhood and migrate to there. And, police presence and things like that just seemed like they switched to that neighborhood and they let Deep Ellum go.
Yeah, you just said it. And that's, I think, what the calculus was. They decided we need to use our resources in areas that we deem more important, and the drift away from making Deep Ellum a priority. I've also heard people say,
think about McKinney Avenue, we talk about Knox Henderson, but you think about the rise of Uptown, and McKinney Avenue and Cedar Springs. The amount of people that they still put in that neighborhood and the amount of high rises and the amount of dollars and the AAC, got built over there. And so traffic patterns, people walking patterns, people living patterns, they all kind of went to here's where the high rise. When I moved to the Ashton, and we had our little bachelor pad at the Ashton. It just, that neighborhood seemed like it stretched our police force a little further.
Yeah.
And Deep Ellum
bit by bit, they just took away the protections of Deep Ellum, and now Deep Ellum. I have also heard people say, and this can be strewed as a racist way to look at it, but I've heard people say that Deep Ellum began to decline when the alt rock bands stopped playing the clubs, and it became more hip hop clubs, more hip hop bands, more. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do remember a major difference in the club. I remember when all the rock clubs were starting to close and they were being rebranded, and suddenly I didn't go to them anymore. So I don't know if that played into it, but again, that speaks to the institutional racism that we face in everyday life here. The priority was protecting the suburban kids going to the Toadies and Old 97 shows, but once it started to be a bunch of black kids going to see hip hop shows, it was not quite as important, and let's move on to Knox Henderson. When you have a limited budget and when people refuse to pay taxes, or not pay taxes, but when people get elected by saying, we're not going to raise taxes, then you have to start working with what you have. And when you only have X amount of police officers and now suddenly you have 15 districts to patrol, one of those districts is going to fall by the wayside. And it seems to me that there was a concerted effort, a decision made to allow Deep Ellum to fall by the wayside, and let's focus on the Design District, Victory, McKinney Avenue, Knox Henderson, because those were more economically profitable to the city.
Well, and I don't know if it was a conscious
I'm not saying I believe that. I'm telling you what's out
Yeah,
there.
but I'm saying, and I can believe what you're saying, but I don't know that it was necessarily a conscious decision. I kind of look at it like, okay, there's a war in general against crime. Okay. And the neighborhood,
But victims aren't treated the same. We already
right. But
covered
the
that.
neighborhood where crime is more prevalent is on the opposite side of downtown. Anything south of
forget it.
Woodall Rogers or anything south of, say, Commerce Street, that neighborhood there is more, crime is more prevalent than it is in downtown, in Deep Ellum, in Uptown. So just thinking about it from okay, I'm on the crime side of things, I'm a criminal. If I'm going to penetrate into the places where people are with money, it's
To
a lot
protect
easier.
them,
It's a
so that
lot
they can
easier
spend
for
their
me to
money.
get to Deep Ellum and get back to the other side than it is for me to go all the way into Uptown and make my way out all the way back to where I originated in South Dallas. And so I think if you just look at it like, okay, Deep Ellum is on the front lines between the border of South Dallas and where uppity people are starting to appear. If you're short on police and you're short on funds in order to maintain enough cops in Uptown, enough cops in the design district, enough cops in downtown. Because remember, downtown went through this renovation too. Nobody lived downtown. And then all of a sudden,
It was
there
awful.
were high rises and
Yeah.
people started living downtown.
Downtown Dallas was abandoned at 5:00 every Friday. That's it. Everybody went home. Nobody lived there. Tumbleweeds. My first trip to Dallas, Kelly and I checked into I don't know, one of the nice hotels down there. We were brought down by the station when we were still doing overnights. And I remember after a fun night, Friday night out in the clubs with a bunch of listeners, I remember waking up on Saturday morning and deciding I was going to go for a walk in downtown Dallas. And there were tumbleweeds in this street. Coming from Chicago, I was like, what the hell is this?
They would wash the streets downtown at night. Me coming from New York City and Buffalo and seeing those cities, I'm like, nobody can wash the streets at night. There's too much traffic. In downtown Dallas, they would wash the street.
Yeah.
And here's where I will say that I know that we had an impact when you had the Pugs and Kelly show and you would have me on and I would advertise sexylofts.com.
Yeah.
The Mosaic, when I got that gig,
in.
There was nobody at the Mosaic. There was nobody at the Davis building, really. And there was nobody at Deep Ellum Lofts. I went to them and said, hey, I'll go on the air. I'll advertise sexylofts.com. In trade, I want you to give me a penthouse, because they had penthouses that they were renting for, at the time, $12,000 a month. I'm like, nobody in downtown is going to come here and pay you guys $12,000 a month.
Right. So just give it to me and I'll talk about it on the
So you
radio.
give me one of the penthouses and I'll start advertising sexylofts.com. And we started
the most
that.
Interesting man in the world right here, folks. I'm telling you.
But you remember we started that and the Mosaic started to fill up and fill up and fill up. And then finally they were like, oh, we got the, president from AT&T moving down here, E. We need you to move out of your penthouse that you have. And we'll give you the other penthouse, because they had 5 of them.
Was it Steve Neal, the hockey player? He lived in our building.
There were a lot of, well, anyway, the point is that downtown started to fill up rapidly, and the high rises and
it became cool for about 3 years.
People that got involved there, it started working, and we were advertising it daily. And so I'm not saying that we were responsible for that entirely.
But what you're saying is you were a part of an attempt to, revitalize the downtown area, and certainly.
And the rents in downtown were cheaper than uptown rents. Because remember, I lived at the Ashton in the Uptown, and they were like, hey, this is a guy that lived at a high rise in Uptown. We now want to move that crowd from Uptown to downtown, and we can give you more square footage for less dollar per square foot. and come
Was
on
that
over
the
here.
coolest apartment you ever lived in? I mean,
Dude, that was
you
ridiculous.
had the penthouse on top. It was so great.
That was ridiculous. I was like on the 31st floor, and I would look out my balcony
To
where
Pegasus.
we had put the hot tub. Remember? And then I brought the grass up there, and I had the
Oh, yeah.
I had the dog.
Because you didn't want to walk the dog in the park downstairs, so you built a park on your deck.
Right. So I built the
on
grass
the roof
thing,
of the building.
and we would look out in that the Pegasus horse
Yeah.
would like rotate around
What was
from
that,
the building.
Exxon? Is that the red Exxon?
Yeah, I think it was, but it would rotate around. And I thought to myself, you know, this would be awesome to play like downtown golf. Like we could hit off of the lawn here and over to the building. It felt like it was like about a 9-iron away. But anyway, it was just, yeah, those are some crazy times we had back then.
All right. So again,
sexylofts.com for all the people that don't remember that. That was the way that we would advertise that.
I lived in that building. I loved that apartment. Big giant loft. That was good. Some of my favorite pictures of my newborn son are just him pressing his nose as a baby. He would have his little bottle in the morning, and we'd put him right up against. We had floor to ceiling. You know, it was like 12-foot ceilings in these lofts.
Yeah,
and
they were like 12-foot
floor to ceiling windows.
And
he would just press his little nose in his little baby sleeper, and he'd suck on his bottle and look at the. You know,
still, I say the coolest pool in downtown is that 8th floor mosaic negative infinity edge. Remember? So we had moved in. We had started doing the promotions on 105.3. We're talking sexylofts.com. And then one of the guys in the building came up to us and he's like, "Hey man, I got this thing going on Sundays. It's called Sunday School." Remember, we started to advertise Sunday School.
Mm-hmm.
First week, we probably had about 100 people show up to the pool. Second week, we probably had about 200 people show up to the pool. Third week, there were like 600 people.
The sexy people.
And then
all the strippers.
Right. Yeah. And it was a crazy crowd.
Yeah.
And come the 5th week, the building came and said, "Okay, shut that Sunday school down. We ain't doing this anymore." And I was like, "I told you we could fill this place up."
Well, you didn't tell us we'd have strippers doing blow off the grills.
Right. It was, oh my God. I still remember that place.
Hey man, it was good 3 years. And then it went to shit. Then people started falling
run
out of the windows.
Yep, we had 2 deaths. Remember, one guy fell off the one side, and then the next week another guy fell off the other side.
It's still to this day the only dead body I have ever seen with my own eyes. We were sleeping. My kid was probably less than a year old at this point, and we had these big steel doors, big heavy steel front doors, and at like 3 o'clock in the morning. A cop with one of them cop flashlights just on our door. I wake up, I open the door, and there's 2 cops there, and they're like, "Excuse me, sir, there's been an incident in the building. Can we look out your window?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So the cop comes in, and he's looking out our window, and he's flashing the down on the ground below from our big floor-to-ceiling windows, and he turns to the other guy, and he goes, no, I think we're on the wrong side. They were on the wrong side of the building.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Your apartment was nowhere near that. What ultimately ended up happening.
We faced the AT, or was it AT&T? No, the electric company.
He had fallen to the tracks, and you were on that side, but you were on the far left.
Curve. Yeah,
you were on the current on the far left. And I remember that weekend it was SMU was playing Houston, and as the story goes, it was the guy that ultimately fell.
Well, hold on. Let me build this up. You hold that. Let me finish the story from my end, how I became to know about it. So 3 o'clock in the morning, now the baby's screaming because, the police flashlight on the steel door has rustled the kid. The kid is screaming to high heaven. The dog is up now. Now the dog wants to go for a walk because she's been sleeping and it's 3 o'clock. And apparently something's going on in the building. So I said, okay, I'm going to take the dog. I'm going to take the dog down there to the little park that we had right in front of the building. And the dog had one of those retractable leashes, where you can make it as long as you want. But when the dog takes off, it goes, and it starts to like unravel. And the dog can get about, 20 feet away, 20, whatever it is.
Until all of a sudden it gets yanked.
Yes, until it ends and then, right. So we're walking out the front door, and as the elevator doors in the lobby open up, same lobby where I saw Paris Hilton standing there back when the NBA All-Star game was in town.
Right. That building was
Hilton.
crazy.
So the elevator doors open up in the lobby, and the dog knows where he's going. So the dog makes a hard right and starts like pulling himself towards the front door where the park is. And I can see now the front doors, 3:10 in the morning. Cops are standing there in the front doors, and they move out of the way. No, they were on the other doors. There were two sets of doors. The doors that we went out there were no cops. Cops were apparently still looking for what we were about to discover. So the door opens up, and the dog, with the retractable leash, because he knows where the park is. He's going to get to the park and pee really quick. He knows where he's going. He's done it a million times before. And he suddenly stops. And I had to yank him back because there was a dead body laying right there on the sidewalk. The person who had fallen from the window fell right in front. And my dog was like, like sniffing him like, oh my God. And I yanked him back. And I remember going, oh my God. And that's when the cops who are at the other entrance on just like about, 20 yards away or something like that, they came over. They hadn't even found the body yet. They were in my apartment. They were in the wrong apartment looking on the wrong side. All they had is a report that someone had fallen out. And my dog Blue discovered the body. And I have to tell you, I don't know if he fell from, I think it was the 18th floor. They said that
I think it was the 27th floor.
27th.
Is
okay.
What I remember.
Okay, so fell from the 27th floor. He was a black gentleman. Couldn't tell the age. Very heavy. He was like a fat guy. He was like a big fat guy. And he didn't break like a watermelon. Like, you expect, a body falls from that height, you would expect there to be splatter. No, the only blood that was visible was coming out of his nose and out of his ears and out of his eyes. But apparently the human body, when dropped from that height, doesn't splatter like the way we might think. And it was the most disturbing experience of my life. I have never seen a dead body in my life until that day. I still haven't. I hope I never do again. But now back to you.
Yeah, and
so who was this guy?
I had seen it or saw it, shortly after you, and I still have that. It was awful. It's something that you're just never going to get out of your mind.
I can vividly picture it right now in my head. It's never going away. He was wearing a black t-shirt.
We were both shaking pretty much after that. So what happened was SMU was in town and they were playing Houston.
Well, SMU's always in town.
Well, no, Houston was in town and they were playing SMU. Said that wrong. And he had come in town for the game, and the game obviously was over. He was then up in the apartment with this girl and the guy who was the girl's boyfriend. And he was, for whatever reason, sitting on the ledge, because that's what people would do at the Mosaic. The week before, a guy had fallen off the ledge on the other side, and they were popping bottles of champagne. And then next thing you know, boom, he had fallen, and the guy and the girl that reported it were scared, and they just took off. And she didn't show back up until the next morning. I don't think it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wasn't he a concierge at one of the fancy hotels?
He was a concierge at one of the hotels in town, and it was just it was a crazy scene. And so at that point in time, I think we had 3 deaths in the building within like a 1 month period. One guy falling off one side, one guy fall off the other side. And then I think there was an incident in the building where a guy had died inside. And at that point, sexy lofts weren't so sexy anymore.
No, it was scary.
Right. And they became bloody. Scary lofts. And so we just kind of ended that contract. And I ended up basically going from the Mosaic over to the third building that they had, which was the DP&L Flats. And unfortunately, a girl had fallen out of the Davis building because she was smoking, and she was sitting on the windowsill ledge, and she lost her balance and flipped out of the Davis building. So within, I think it was like a 2-month period, we had a huge amount of unfortunate things. Breaking news here: the van pulls up to the laundry home.
Okay.
I don't know what van this is. It
Liberal
looks a
use of
lot like the
braking.
white van.
Yeah.
But
they-
I don't
yeah, they
think it
wouldn't
is
brake.
the white van, and it's now raining. They've kind of backed it in. It looks like this might be a van that they're going to load a bunch of stuff into. I don't know.
Well, here, let's we're running out of time here. We didn't get to any of the stuff that we were going to get to. There's really not a whole bunch of stuff that's trending today anyway. We talked about the shooting at Heritage High School in Newport News. There is no update on that. The latest is well, I'll just give you let's see here. Update Heritage High School, Newport News. Police respond to a shooting at Heritage High School in Newport News, Virginia, where students have been evacuated. We have 4 students now. It was 5 earlier, so that's good. 4 students taken to hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries. 2 have been shot. A 17-year-old male who was shot in the side of the head, and a 17-year-old female who was shot in the leg. As far as the Brian Laundrie situation is going on, the police are still actively engaged in whatever they're doing with the warrants that they got. They arrived early this morning. They're tossing Brian Laundrie's parents' house. Emil's been keeping us up to date on all of that stuff.
Mustang's gone.
The Mustang's gone. So they pulled Brian's
out
Mustang out of there. Okay.
And there's a white van now that's been backed into the driveway. There's a police officer standing there underneath the camper that was kind of up on stilts, and it's raining pretty heavily at the moment.
We don't have, I mean, honestly, it's such terrible stuff trending. Not terrible in that this is disturbing news. Terrible in that, like, number one trending is like I don't know who BTS is, other than that they're one of these South Korean pop bands, and they always trend. And they're trending because hashtag Army vaccinated too. Apparently, fans of BTS are all encouraging people to get vaccinated. Pfizer is trending. We talked about that. There is now a vaccine.
The vaccine cleared
made
for
available
5 to 11.
5 to 11-year-olds. Apple has an update that's now available for download. The iOS 1.5. Don't know what that means. Novocaine is trending simply because somebody started a thread talking about how they only go to the dentist with Novocaine. Well, duh. Who would want dental work without? That is literally why Novocaine is trending. People are like, "Oh, I wouldn't go to a dentist who didn't give me Novocaine." Owen Hart, the late great wrestler, he's trending. The Owen Hart Foundation is doing something. They entered into a relationship to honor world-renowned wrestler Owen Hart's legacy.
I'd go for laughing gas.
They
didn't have Novocaine.
No, both. Thank you. Because I don't want to ruin my incredible high by having excruciating pain. But do you know, it's funny you mentioned that. That is my one rule on a dentist. If I am looking for a new dentist, every time I've had to get a new dentist, I say, do you provide nitrous oxide? Do you provide gas if that's what I want? And if they say no, I say thank you very much. And then I go somewhere else where they offer me gas, because I was spoiled by my dentist as a teenager. My dentist had a Walkman and a whole selection of music, and you would put the Walkman on and you'd pop it. It was a little bit yacht rocky. You know, I remember there was a lot of Fleetwood Mac. So I would grab a Fleetwood Mac tape and I'd put it in and I'd put the headphones on, and then he'd give me the gas. And it was one of the most enjoyable experiences of my life.
And for that to be said while being at the dentist, that's important.
Right? Yes. Mm-hmm. So, and then when I moved here to Dallas, I got a new dentist and he didn't give me the gas. And I was like, last time I'm coming here. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have gas? Well, we don't. I'm like, okay, I require the gas. That's what I need. So I'm going to go to a new dentist. And every dentist I go to, Novocaine isn't even an issue. Of course you're going to give me Novocaine. Of course you're not going to rip out my tooth. I had major stuff go on here. I've never had what they call your wisdom teeth come in, but I've had like my back molars ripped out. There was a big problem from an old injury, but they basically needed to all be ripped out. So I have no back molars on either side. Catch a punch. Sometimes, it rattles around in there. And then after a few years, they need to come out because they are no longer doing roots. I couldn't imagine how invasive that was, and the root canals that were done to try and make sure that area was all fine. Right. I couldn't have imagined that without Novocaine. That's not even an option. Of course you're giving me Novocaine, but the gas, I'll pay up for that. That'll be an upcharge and I'm fine with it.
I would like to think that any dental insurance plan would cover Novocaine.
Well, of course.
I would
I don't
hope.
understand why it's even trending. People are talking about, I wouldn't go to a dentist that doesn't. Apparently, there's a dentist somewhere who doesn't do Novocaine.
I mean, I can imagine, if you're tight on funds and you're trying to, get by, maybe you don't want to pay for the Novocaine.
Oh,
You think you
stop
can
it.
tough it out? I don't know.
Stop it. That's like, you know what? The next time I have surgery, no anesthesia. I just want to see what's going on. Well, that's insane. No Novocaine.
Well, but I mean, how about the people that just get the partial anesthesia? They get what they call the midnight. They don't get totally put out. I mean, they have that option. Like you can be awake during your surgery and they'll kind of deaden you from the waist down. If you're having a procedure on your knee. I was like, no way, man. I want to be out. Like, wake me up when it's over. There is no, award for pain. Like, you're not going to get a trophy for, I went through it without Novocaine.
No, yeah, no. You're just an idiot. You just don't understand the amount of pain you're going to have. Here's something interesting that's trending now. It's trending down low. I don't know how long this was. Okay, so it's been trending for 3 hours. Alan Weiselberg, remember that guy? He was CEO.
Yeah, Trump's accountant or finance guy, money guy.
He's been indicted, so we're waiting on all of that to go down. But he is now saying that he is expecting more indictments will be filed in the case. He said this through his lawyer. So he's talking. So that's what that means. He gave them some information, and they're going to go after some other people.
Breaking news here: the Laundrie family lawyer is announcing that he will have a news conference tomorrow.
Where if he is a lawyer of any, he'll probably just, I quit. I just wanted to let everybody know my law firm back in Long Island has been destroyed, and I am no longer a part of these crazy people. Look, coming up on tonight's Pillow Talk show, there was a lot of stuff we didn't get to. It's a whole bunch of things trending today that are divisively politically, and there's, the K-pop stuff and wrestling stuff. And I'm sorry, I just can't. Phone updates. I mean, we covered the things that were important. The school shooting, the updates on Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. The stock market is now down 890 points. It was 700 the last time. It was down 700. So that is certainly going to be a big deal. That'll be by the time it closes, if it closes down over 1,000, which 893.50, it updates every so often.
904 right now as I'm watching it.
There you go. Yeah, it's just cascading towards negative 1,000, which is bad, which is really, really bad. Although, not having stocks, but I watch these things. Like I watch when it goes down and I go, that just means that for the next 3 days, it'll rally back up and a whole bunch of people, will make money off of that.
You hope.
Yeah, well, yeah, I do. I hope. All right. So we did that. We talked about Heritage High School and the school shooting there. We talked about the Laundrie situation. We talked about the big local news, the shooting in Deep Ellum and what happened to Deep Ellum. Tonight, coming up on the show, we've got a Pillow Talk at 10 o'clock. We've got other local stories I want to talk about. I want to talk about this bar in Rowlett, Hang Time. Are you familiar with this? Where,
no.
Oh boy, this was a big story on CBS last night. I'll tease you with this. The guy who owns the bar kicked out a young family with their immunocompromised daughter, kicked them out, wouldn't let them eat there because they were wearing masks. He will not allow anyone wearing masks in his restaurant. So we're gonna dig into that, dude.
I thought wait staff had to wear masks.
Nope. Well, he doesn't allow it. Not in Texas. No, apparently not. Apparently he doesn't allow any masks in his place. And a little baby was brought to a bar by his parents. The baby is immunocompromised. So the family was wearing masks. And we're also going to get into, what are you doing bringing your immunocompromised baby, and we're talking like 6 months old, out to a bar? Okay, so we're going to get into all of that. Plus, we'll cover the Emmys. We got a whole bunch of funny tape from last night that I want to play for you. Whole bunch more stuff we didn't get to today on today's show because of the big breaking news at the beginning. School shooting in Newport News, Virginia at Heritage High School. It 2 people have been shot, non-life threatening. So everything that we've heard developing out of Newport News in the past 2 hours seems to be good. All right, we're rallying. I now got 894. I got now down 894.
881.
881. I got 896.
883, 886.
So you're watching on. I'm probably about 30 seconds behind because I'm streaming it. So there's a little bit of a lag there. So I would say that you on your big giant TV probably have a better 889. All right, so
Yeah,
that's
just as we say that, it bounces back up to 901, 903. Yeah.
Good Lord.
904.
Dow Jones Industrial Average is absolutely. Yep, there we go. Now we're at 901. Let's see what there, and now we're at 903. So that is the difference between what you're watching and what I'm watching, about 15-second drag. Join us tonight for Pillow Talk. That's 10 o'clock. We'll get into all of that stuff. James Parker joins us from New Orleans. It's a little bit more of a silly show. We have fun, lighter topics. These topics during the day here are typically bummers a lot of times. Any updates on the Petito thing, we'll bring it to you. And yeah, that's it. So I appreciate you guys being here. Note, the 10 o'clock Pillow Talk show may be like 10 minutes late, 5 minutes late, whatever it was last Monday, because I'm going to my son's football game again. He's got a late football game, and it's up there in the suburbs. And I mean, we're out of there by 9, but depending on traffic and how long it takes to get all the way back here is 9:30.
Yeah, we
Was it
were
more
out
like
at about
9:30?
9:30 last.
The game
time.
starts at 7:30, and they're quick, because they're just middle school games. Middle school games being played in a stadium underneath lights. And I'm not talking about the kind of stadium that I had in 1987 where it's just a couple of bleachers configured to look like a stadium. No, we're talking a real stadium with bathrooms in the tunnels and ramps leading you up to the upper deck. I mean, it's crazy. This is a middle school kids. I didn't get to play under the lights until I was in high school. These middle school kids, that's all they do. 7:30 at night under the lights. So bear with us. We will be doing a Pillow Talk tonight. But if we're not on right at 10 o'clock, 10:05, 10:10 at the worst. We'll make our way back here. All right. Thank you, E. Thank you to all you folks. We'll rally back here sometime at 10 o'clock for Pillow Talk. I am Pugs. He's Uncle Lee. This has been Pugs and Company on the Radio Misfits Network.